This is a Hobbyzone Super Cub, which was just a 3-channel plane that had the obviously one channel for the motor, the one for the rudder and the elevator, and I've since put 4 servos in total in the wings, and then created ailerons and flaps. So this is the Aeroscout, where it's just a 4-channel plane with the ailerons, and what I plan to do is to put flaps on these 2 sides. There isn't a lot of room to install flaps, but I think for the room that I've got, it could make a difference. This flies particularly fast. So again, I'll just do what I did with the Hobbyzone Super Cub, is that I will then insert the 2 servos on the wing, and because this is on a Spectrum AR636B, there is the capability for a 6-channel transmitter to take the flaps. So I'll cut exactly where I'm going to go along here, and then I'll use cable ties as hinges, as you'll see as we go forwards. So now I've taken my ruler, once I've taken the wings off of course, and measured 1 centimetre here, 1 centimetre there, and the same on this side, 1 centimetre here, 1 centimetre there. So what I'm going to do now is cut along here, cut straight along there. These will be hinged by cable ties, so then I'll be sanding along here, enable this to move down. I might even put an indent on it similar to how the ailerons are, but you'll see that in the next clip. Already cut the first one out. I always find it better to use a serrated knife on foam, seems to work better. So I've cut them both now, so what I'll do now is sandpaper, especially this side here, so it doesn't catch, and I'll sandpaper all these sides so it doesn't rub against these sides. So yeah, that's the next job. So I've now sanded the inside bit of that edge so it doesn't catch, and I've measured 3 centimetres in from each side, and I've cut the cable ties at 3 centimetres because it's going to go 1 centimetre in, and the rest is going to go into the flap because there's a spar that runs across, so that'll only be going 1 centimetre. So when the cable ties are lined up with the wing, then just make a template of where those cable ties are going to go into, then push them in. Then just obviously make sure that the flap is kind of level with the wing, and we'll probably go a little bit more, but don't worry about having it too straight at this time, because obviously the servo underneath will attain where that's going to be. But I think if you get that as near as you can, then I think that needs a bit lifting up there, but you get the general gist. So I've got some foam safe glue here, which is this Loctite extreme glue. So I've put smear glue on the ends here, and also put glue on the other part, and then shoved it in, so I'll get that flap on. So what I've done here is put the Y harness into on the AR636 port number 6, which is the auxiliary. Always make sure that of course you're the orange side up, and then so I mean these flaps are all ready to go. They've been glued a few days now, and of course they've been sanded down here so they can move through easily. September 2019, so 10th of November 2017, the 26th of December. Sorry about that then. So now I've got the 2 servos, and of course you need to see, you'll get a selection of arms. I usually use this arm, and then usually have to make the hole there a bit bigger to accept the rods, and then you need to place them on the wing so you know how you need to be setting them into the wing, and then I've got the transmitter set up. There are settings that you need to do with this to set up the wing type as in one flap, one aileron, because they work off a Y harness, and so do these ailerons work off a Y harness. So it's one flap, one aileron. And then when I set it to D, you'll see them both move, and obviously these are going to be embedded in, and they're going to make these flaps move. And also I've done a mix in the tail, so that when it is flaps on, the elevator moves to compensate. So if you look to see where these are, if we go down to flap system, obviously flap system in the function list here will appear once you've done your aircraft type as one flap, one aileron. So when we go into the flap system, you'll see here that we've allocated this to switch D. We set the speed there to a 2-second delay, so it's not a sudden move down. So the first one is 100% with no elevation, so that's obviously in its off position. And then when we go to position number 2, that then set it to 0%, so that's going to take it to the middle, and a 16% on the elevator. And then position number 2 minus, so that goes even more, so that'll be quite a lot flap on by the look of that. Again, for some reason it's not quite working on the elevator, so that might be a case where I need to program the AR636 through the Spectrum software. But really, if you're just looking for a flap system, I would have thought that amount of flap will suffice. And obviously on the first switch, that adjustment on your elevator, you see it just working, will be fine. Okay, so what I've done here is line up or make an impression on where the servo is going to go, and I've done that with this end as well. Notice they are pointing in the same direction because of course the levers are going to go that way. There possibly could be a way where you can move this round to the other way and make it move through doing the settings, but personally I'm not too fussed. Also I've put the rod through, and I've actually had to, by improvising with a tool like this, is to make this hole here a little bit bigger to get this rod through. That's quite easy to do. So what I'm going to do next is obviously make sure these rods are on okay, and then with this solder iron I'm then going to melt away some of this, so then I can fit the servo on and then glue it. One thing I've just noticed actually when using the soldering iron to make out your pattern, that on the Aeroscout there is a void in the middle, so obviously make sure you don't push all the way through, and that's going to sit in there, and then I'll be using some glue around that. So this will be glued in here, and then after we'll cut the arm to make sure it obviously sits with the horn. I'm going to do the same with this one next. Okay, these are now nice and firmly glued into place. I actually used the foam safe Loctime Extreme glue. Works a treat. So again, this one is firmly in place. Later on you'll see I'll plan to put fill around here just to neaten it up a bit. I've already put one of the horns in place. This one here. So because obviously the depth here is more than that, and I'll get some scissors and just cut maybe halfway down, and then line this up directly with the rod, so I know exactly where it's going in, similar to what I've done here. Look, just line it up directly with the rod to make sure it's at right angles. So I'll do that for this side. So just initially putting the plane back together. So that's full flaps, 50% flaps, no flaps. The only thing is I noticed this one has more travel than the other one, so I'm just going to do an adjustment on that. So here's what I'd say is the final edit on the flaps. They look pretty balanced to me, and I've let sort of flaps down a bit because this as a trainer does travel very fast. So if we just go 50% flaps, we're getting a good balance on both of them, and then full flaps. So hopefully this should make a real difference in flying the Aeroscout. So if we just look at, obviously the bottom, I'm going to put filler in there as the final, just tidy up, but otherwise that looks okay. So here I'm just using some lightweight polyfiller. I'll cut into the back because it blocked up at the front, but anyway, that's something else. And there I'm just tidying up these little holes and just making it look a little bit more presentable. Obviously remember, don't put any down here or else the arm will swing to it. So there we have it, the Aeroscout is ready to fly. So next video this will be out on the airfield and we'll see how it flies with the flaps.